going on? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for tuning in and spending a few moments of your day with me. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, I would urge you to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. It helps me out and it helps other people find the channel. Today I've got a book review for you guys. I'm taking a look at 10 card mysteries that Anneman would have loved by Jon Racherbaumer. Now this was put out back in 2009 for a magic conference down in Daytona with Harry Anderson, and it was originally a limited release. It was limited to 250 copies, but it has been re-released on library.com. I think it's a PDF now. You can get it for 20 bucks. Now I bought mine about 10 years ago off of eBay, and you can actually see here that I actually got copy number 2, and I can't even remember how much I paid for it, but just as the title suggests, these are 10 card effects that are mental card effects. That's mentalism with cards. This was a tribute to Anneman, and that's because a lot of what was in the Jinx were card effects. So Racherbaumer has basically taken a bunch of different mental card effects and put them in this book. Now there is no introduction. He just gets right into the effects. None of this stuff is difficult. It's all beginner level, so you'll be able to perform this stuff immediately right out of the gate. And I found that the structure of the routines and the principles are ingenious. They will allow you to be able to read people's minds, make cards disappear, become invisible, make cards transpose by themselves apparently, and do all kinds of other miraculous things. Now, personally, I've used 7 out of these 10 effects extensively, and I go back to them again and again, which is why this is one of the few books that sits on my bookshelf that I go back to occasionally here and there. Those of you who have studied Anneman know that Anneman emphasized that the effect is what counts, and that implausibility is more important than impossibility, because the impossible can never happen, but the implausible rarely happens, seldom happens, but when it does, it's a lot more impressive because it is something that very rarely happens. Like, that is why if I take a card and put it on the table and ask somebody, what card do you think that is? They name a card and I turn it over and it's that card. That will impress them more than, you know, most other effects. And the reason is because it is possible. It can happen. It just doesn't happen very often, so it's going to feel very magical. Anyway, I'm going to go over those 7 effects here that I've used over the years and I keep going back to, because I think you guys are going to really like them a lot, and I think that you're going to find that there's some really good stuff in this book that you're going to enjoy as well. So the first effect in the book that I use is called hermetic penetration. I've used it a handful of times. It's one of those effects that you can use if somebody's showing you some tricks with their deck and you want to show them something really quickly that's absolutely impossible and will probably blow them away. You're going to take their deck, shuffle deck in use. You're going to have them cut some cards off. They're going to look at the card they cut to. You give them the deck and you tell them behind their back to just bury the card that they just looked at somewhere in the middle. Then you give them the card box, tell them to put the cards in the box behind their back. Now under those conditions, you can read their mind, tell them the card that they cut to, that they looked at, that you apparently have, there's no way you can know what it is, and then you can magically make their card reverse while it is in the deck in the box. The spectator themselves can take the cards out of the box, they can spread them and see that there's one reverse card in the middle, which is the card that they put there. And because the method is so clever, you apparently really don't even touch the cards for the most part. There's no gimmicks or gaffes because, like I said, this is from a shuffle deck in use and it's like absolute beginner level. You're definitely going to use it and it's very simple and fun. So that's the first effect in the book that I've used. The next effect in here that I've used, which is a favorite of mine, is called the rules of the game, or no, gaming the rules. It's called gaming the rules. The original effect by Phil Goldstein was called The Rules of the Game, and that was published in Minotaur magazine. I can't remember if it was 93 or 95, somewhere around there. But the Minotaur magazine was a magic magazine that few people have anymore. If you get your hands on, I don't think you could even buy it anymore. And so this will give you an opportunity to get a really good effect from there. But if you can get your hands on the Minotaur, I would recommend you take a look at the write-up there, just because there's one move in there, and I think that the handling in the Minotaur may be just a little bit better. But that being said, it's pretty much exactly the same thing. The effect looks like this. You take out a deck and you have one odd back card, which you put aside as a prediction. You tell them that the rules of the game are that the spectator cannot choose a joker as you take a joker out and you leave it face up on the table. You spread the deck on the table, and we'll just assume that they're all red cards, for example. They're going to push any card forward that they like. And then what you're going to do is you're going to use that face-up joker to turn over your prediction, which would be like a blue back prediction, and you use it to turn over the card that they pushed out, and they match. So the kicker here, though, is not even that. The kicker is that now you can tell them that they followed the rules of the game because they didn't choose a joker. You turn over the spread, and they're all jokers. All the cards are jokers except for the card that they push forward and the prediction. So this is an effect that, there's a lot of different versions out there. Personally, I do like Armando Lucero's effect, which is similar to this but doesn't have that kicker and is totally different and uses a totally different mechanism and uses different sleights. But here, the sleight is super simple. Again, I do kind of like the sleight that's used in the Minotaur because it's just a little tiny bit different, but virtually the same thing. And as I mentioned, it's like beginner level. Anyone will be able to perform this, and it looks very impressive. So that's the second effect in the book. Moving along to the next effect, there's an effect there that's called Must Be 21 to Smoke. And just like the title suggests, it is a 21 card trick. But unlike any other 21 card trick you probably have seen, here you're going to count out 3 piles of 21 cards. You're going to have the spectator choose whatever pile they want. They're going to select a card. You're going to put the piles together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tell them you're going to make their selection invisible. So you apparently pull it out, it's invisible, and you take it out. And now you can let the spectator count the cards, and they'll count that there's a card missing. There's only 20 cards. Then what you do is you systematically just turn over a bunch of cards and show them and say, do you see your card? They say no. Turn over some more and show them, do you see your card? No. You go through all the cards like that. They don't see their card. So their card's really gone. Now you take that invisible card that's just sitting there on the side and you look at it and you say, oh, okay, I see what your card is. And you name their card there in real time. They're going to be very amazed by that. And you tell them, hey, watch this. I'll put it back inside. You put it back inside, but now it's back in there. You can spread it out and show them that it's back in with the rest of the other cards. And so that's the effect. It's extremely simple. There's really no sleight of hand. And the reason why it works so well is because of the structure of the effect. So you're always way ahead of the spectator. The next effect that I think you guys are going to like is called Unlikely Triumvirate. And this is an effect where you're going to use about 16 cards. You're going to have the spectator think of a number, and you're going to have them remember a card at their number. You're going to do a very simple procedure where you're going to show them how a mathematician would be able to find their card, and then you're going to repeat the whole thing. But now you're going to have this amazing part where there's no way that you could know the number they're thinking of, yet you will know it, and you're also going to be able to know what card they're thinking of. And then the final kicker is that the card they're thinking of, you change the back of the card to a totally different color. So it's got a lot of kickers built in. And the method is very unique and very diabolical because, again, you're way ahead of the spectator. I've never seen another effect that uses this exact method. The method is really kind of unique. And the very first phase, which is a little bit mechanical and procedure heavy, once that phase is over, the rest of the effect is going to seem absolutely impossible because you will know the number they're thinking of and the card that they're thinking of in an impossible way. It's not going to make any sense to them because they're able to shuffle all these cards, and it doesn't seem like you could possibly know the card that they're thinking of. And if you read the effect, you'll see that they kind of do a stop presentation where they're dealing the cards face up and they tell them to mentally think stop when they see their card, and that they use that. But you really could present it any way that you want because the method is so diabolical. I think a lot of people would probably like that effect a lot. The next effect in the book was my absolute favorite, which is called Biddling Brown in the Round. Now, this effect was Ed Marlowe's version of Edward G. Brown's effect that was called the 12 card thought transposition. So if you have the card magic of Edward G. Brown, you could read that effect called the 12 card thought transposition. Basically, the effect is very straightforward. You're going to have a spectator from a shuffled deck in use count out 12 cards. They can even count out whatever 12 they want. Edward G. Brown originally suggested that they just use all number cards. But in my own experience, I don't think it even matters. And what you do is you tell them that you're going to show them half of the cards. You want them to think of one. So you've got 6 cards on one side, 6 on the other. And then in real time, you're going to have their thought of card transposed from one pile to the other. Now, if you read Edward G. Brown's original version, the problem with it was that the sleight was very difficult to do. There's one major sleight in the original version, and I found it very difficult to do, and I found it to be very awkward. Now, Ed Marlowe completely cleaned it up with this handling in the book. It's so simple to do it, and because of that, it's going to look like you've done nothing. And so I know Edward Brown had the idea of putting the cards in tumblers. I mean, I don't do that, but you could if you want. But what really makes the effect so strong is that after they're thinking of their card, you can show them that there's 6 cards, and you could take the other pile, show them that there's 6 cards, and then you just have them think of, you tell them, okay, what number were you thinking of? Like what position was your card? And maybe they say 3. You can show them the card in the 3rd position on the right side, and that's not their card. But then you can say, watch, I'm going to make your card vanish from here and go there. And then they can count out the cards in the original pile. Now there's only 5. Now the other pile, now there's 7 cards. And in the exact position is the card that they're mentally thinking of. And so this is a mentally thought of card that transposes. Very magical, very strong, and super easy to perform, which is why it's my favorite effect in the book. Because if you want to do a card transposition effect, or card across effect that's very impressive with a thought of selection, this is what you want to look for. And again, it can be done with a borrowed deck from a shuffled deck in use. So it doesn't get much better than that. That gets my highest recommendation from this book. The next effect in the book I think you guys may like is called Shush, where you take a deck of cards, you give it a shuffle, you let the spectator cut it a couple times, 3 selections are removed, the cards are returned to the box, and you're going to divine those selections. The principles are not original, and I've performed many effects that are similar to this, where 3 cards are removed, they're put in the pocket, you have somebody take one out, and you just like mentally divine each card. So it's really straightforward and simple, but some people may not be familiar with the method, even though it's extremely well known. Back in the day, I found it really useful. Nowadays, I perform kind of a variation of it, but I still think it's really good for those that don't use something like that. And finally, the last effect in the book that I think you're going to absolutely love is called Wide Open Prediction. And this is an open prediction effect that I think you guys are going to like a lot. It's semi-self-working. There's nothing difficult about it, yet it's very fooling to your spectators. Now, I performed it for a friend today, and their exact words were that they had no idea. So I guess it fooled them. Let me show you guys what it looks like in my own hands, just to give you a good idea of what it looks like. I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to show you a mentalism effect with playing cards I'm going to be reviewing here very soon. And it's actually with a shuffle deck in use. So you can take your deck and shuffle it, and you tell the spectator you're going to make a prediction. In fact, the prediction is going to be the King of Hearts. You hand them the deck and you tell them to start dealing cards face up, looking for that King of Hearts. But whenever they want to, they can just stop dealing. So somewhere along the lines, they'll stop. They'll deal one of these cards face down, and you tell them, look, keep looking for the King of Hearts. And you're going to go through the whole pack like this. You're going to be looking for that King of Hearts. And as you start to get near the end, if you want, you can look. Here's the other red king. They're going to notice that there's no King of Hearts. So you're going to tell them that logic dictates that if they didn't see the King of Hearts, then that means obviously that this face down card must be, of course, the King of Hearts, which it is, which is crazy because you saw the whole deck and that was the only King of Hearts, and that's the one that they chose, the one that they dealt face down. If you don't perform an open prediction type effect, I would recommend you check it out just because it's so easy to perform. Again, I would say that it's semi-self-working because it's so simple to perform and so easy. Anyway, those are the effects from the book that I really like a lot. I think that if you're into card magic, you're into mentalism, I think you're going to absolutely love the book and like a lot of the effects in there, which is why I go over them. Hopefully this has piqued your interest. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments about this or anything else I go over, just leave me a comment below. Hopefully this has been helpful to you guys, and I'll see you on the next review.